Welcome to Supersport AM's coverage of the 6th Midrand Roundtable Bed Race. And this year, a huge improvement on last year, 149 beds lined up at AA Kyalami. In fact, so many of them that they were two different starts. Jacaranda 94 were ready to take their place, and false start. So, a little eager. They've obviously not been watching the Olympics. Chicken Man was there. What are the rules as they count down the start for the 2000 Midrand Roundtable Bed Race and take to the road? Well, there has to be a patient on the bed at all times. 5 people per bed, but a patient has to be on the bed at all times. Does that happen all the time? You guessed it. Of course not. Very cold, very wet, and very windy conditions, and at the first 500 to 600 meters of Kyalami, downhill, so you can ride it for all it's worth. Team number 4 getting to the first obstacle. This is where the bed has to be lifted over. One of the patients has to do something inevitably very silly at each one of these stopping points. More of a hindrance rather than anything else. And considering the terrible weather, 4,500 to 5,000 spectators out there at AA Kyalami watching this spectacle. That's MTN. They were probably going to call for a friend in a while. This is one of the other obstacles that one of the patients had to go through, or drivers, depending on. A slight uphill bit of Kyalami. There's where you get your liver and your heart. That was well dropped. Of course, the liver and the heart is filled with water. This is the second start this year because there were so many beds. They had to divide the start up into 2 sections. It's a bit like Le Mans on a bad day. You may ask yourself, as Batman and Robin and the rest of them take to the road, that's desktop, by the way, what's the whole idea of the bed races? Well, over the past 6 years, no less than 480 hospital beds have been donated. These beds are purchased by the teams, then dressed up in some cases. Well, look at that. That's more like a pram rather than a bed. And then once they've done their 4-kilometer jaunt around Kyalami, they passed on to various charities. This year's major beneficiary is JAFTA. That's the Johannesburg Association for the Aged. BASF certainly didn't have it taped on the day. There's another one of the livers or the hearts going astray. You can well imagine. It's filled with water. It's a rather cool day. That's the Roundtable Loskop, chapter 233. I'm convinced that that was a swear word. Not certain, but I think so. This is one of the more unattractive stoppages. There's flour in there, and in there somewhere you have to fish out a marshmallow. First, though, you have to wet your face before you find the marshmallow. Afterwards, at least you do get to wash some of it off. Well, at least the guy with a hose pipe a kilometer further down the road does the job for you.
Blow. There we go. Blow. Again. Blow. Come, keep blowing. Blow.
No, it's not a snowstorm. It's not that cold. Oh, there you go. Casper the Friendly Ghost has come to visit too. Back out on the road on the sharp end of the field, the competition end, and you can believe that some people really do take it seriously because there's even a speed trap out there. The traffic cops from Midrand were out, and for once they weren't being sworn at for being out on the road. This is on the sharp downhill section, and here you really have to know you're running and you're driving because the bed can get out of control, and there you go, they'll be fined, no doubt about that. Loskop in the thick of things. Now, one of the other prizes competed for further back in the field is the best team spirit out there. And the judges were watching that very carefully. Quite clearly, these folks couldn't give a hoot about who finishes first, as long as they just get there. A bit like comrades. I told you about the guy with the hosepipe, and I wasn't kidding, except it's a rather large hosepipe, isn't it? This year, unprecedented interest and a very huge entry, and the winning time from the year 1999 was just over 21 minutes. That, in fact, was a new record. But at the front end of the field, believe it or not, the post office were doing their deliveries correct, and they were leading quite handsomely. They may have even got there on time. One more of the obstacles. This is the giant slalom. Well, it feels like a giant slalom when you're on the bed. just about at the halfway mark now of the race for these folks. Well, they say you can leave your dirty washing out in public, and they certainly did. The good thing about this, of course, is that charities' benefits and hospital beds is such a very serious thing in South Africa. So many institutions don't have them, and the Midrand and these kind folks who've entered more than 140 teams will make a difference when all is said and done at the end of the day. Now a slight drizzle coming down, so you can well imagine it's cold, it's drizzly, it's windy. Still, they're out there having fun. And no, they didn't necessarily need a bath. He just did that a second time, I'm convinced. The last year that the Supersport AM team competed in this, Mark Perro almost disappeared in there. That's Fedshaw working quite hard. Is that a fireman in disguise? Some beds were truly well made up, others left a bit to the imagination. That's at the finish. And some very weary bodies, because you can well imagine there's some serious uphills. Some of the obstacles do ask a bit of physical exertion. At the finish line, some very weary bodies being welcomed by 94.2 Jacaranda's Tove Kane. And she was doing a good job of getting them all back there at the finish. And there's some weary feet there too, because not only did they have to contend with 4 kilometers, but all those obstacles, and on top of it all, bad weather too. Proceeds collected from the race is used to upgrade, benefit and uplift the local Midrand community, and in the past 5 years they have done a great job. At the prize giving, Best Dressed Bed and Team Spirit, well, that was what it was all about. That is the Best Dressed Bed, Batman and his group. That's desktop bed number 104, and he's still a bit weary, but they did a great job with their bed. Then the Team Spirit was bed 113, that went to MTN, and it shall remain untold why they got that particular award. Something not suitable for family viewing. And the first team home, congratulations, goes to the post office, who clocked a time of just over 18 minutes, and it's nice to see that they got a delivery right for once. That's them streaking by in the orange shorts. Did a great job indeed.
Great race, and you did very, very well. I think you should do 2 laps next year.
What is the point to all of this? Well, charities benefit. So, Supersport AM suggests that you get yourself a bed, 4 other crazy races, and get together for the 2001 Midrand Roundtable Bed Race. We'll see you there.